take an interest in DNA and genetic results. Multiple companies do it. I've been doing family history or genealogy for over 30 years, so I was deep into it. I also pretty much knew my ancestors back fairly far. DNA really only goes back 4 to 5 generations. So I waited for a very inexpensive sale on Ancestry DNA. I went ahead and bought it, and here were my results. And you all pray this pen works. So here's the pie chart. Here's what I got. 50-50. I am glad I did not spend $100 for this test. So this is England and Western Europe. That goes all the way from southern Sweden into Denmark, into the Netherlands, Germany, France, back up into Wales, and into England, and kind of loops up. Does anybody know why that group is all mixed up? Any ideas of history? Okay, the Normans, the French, the Vikings invaded each other for centuries. Therefore, they intermarried or had relations. So it's very understandable why I got this incredibly irritating and very broad group. Especially when you see the ads on TV. Oh, I am 13% Sicilian. Like, not likely to happen. This other half is also incredibly fascinating. Scotland and Ireland. I'm glad I spent a lot of money on this test as well. I already knew all of this just based on my family's story. I have a grandmother who was born in England. I know I have a bunch of Irish immigrants and Scots and this and this. Like, my last name is Gaston, which is French, so thanks for telling me something I already knew. When I went to the annual genealogy conference up in Burbank this year, I said, hey, what is with this pathetic breakdown? And I got a very helpful millennial who was very happy to tell me, well, you know, we prefer to be on the side of caution. We don't want to give information that's going to be inaccurate. And as more DNA samples come in, it'll tighten up and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're just full of it. I'd actually had a breakdown that was better than this initially. They refreshed the data, which is supposed to improve the results. It made mine broader. So I have my child to thank. I passed out my child's DNA results. She's on here as Jane Smith. Do not be alarmed, that is my kid. So if you look at this very first page of the handout, which you have right there, you will see her pie chart. Yeah, there you go. Her pie chart looks a whole lot different than mine. This is through 23andMe. 23andMe provides apparently much more detail than Ancestry is willing to go on. Now they're both using DNA modeling, statistical things. Why one's so generic and the other one's so specific, I don't understand. So if you look at my daughter's, the first section, she's 73% European, which does not surprise me at all. Obviously she's got me, 100%. Her father's from Mexico. So it explains the breakdown. She's, 46% English, or Northwestern European, same broad group. Although hers, if you look down here under Northwestern European, it breaks down 18 additional regions, which is something the Ancestry results did not do. And it actually identifies certain areas near Glasgow in Scotland and the Midlands in England where I know I have ancestry. So the results seem pretty legit and fairly accurate. She also, if you flip to the next page, she is, and this was where we got interested, and this is thanks to Dad, she has 22% Southern European, of which 14% is Spanish and Portuguese, which makes perfect sense if he's from Mexico. He also has, or gave her 19, almost 20% of what they are broadly grouping East Asian and Native American. Anybody have a shot why?
Over that border, other
the Bering Sea land bridge back 12,000 years ago. Almost everybody who has Mexican or Native American ancestry will have East Asian markers from the time back when they went over the Bering landmass and came down and populated North America and Central America and into South America. So that was pretty interesting. She was wondering if she could get a college scholarship, being Native American. I told her I don't think. She goes to Mexico, maybe. Then the last one, which was I found absolutely fascinating and did not expect, to be perfectly honest, was the sub-Saharan African markers she has. Anybody here done DNA for and have Spanish markers at all? One thing that's very common, because again, back in the 1400s and the 1500s, and even further back, there was a very common trade route between Spain and Northern Africa. That's a very common marker to have. It's almost always going to be there, because over time, I mean, it was in the late 1400s that the Moors or the Muslims were pushed back into Africa, Northern Africa. So those roots and genetics make as much sense as my Viking ancestors do. It makes sense historically. Did not expect West African ancestry. Anybody have an idea what West African ancestry might be different, how it might be different than having that trade route Northern African ancestry?
Isn't that where the world began?
No, good guess. That is the slaves, where the slaves come from. Mostly if you do any DNA for African Americans or Jamaicans or anybody who came from there, that is almost all West African. I did not know that was going to apply to her Mexican ancestry. But in talking to the DNA people at the conference, they said, yes, it's very common, even within the Mexican population, or the Spaniards when they came over, will have intermixed at some point with the slaves. And so that's how she got that. So I just thought it was fascinating. To end, I would recommend 23andMe over the Ancestry just because of the data that they have. And I think it's incredibly important to know this stuff, because I don't know what country my daughter would go back to. Man,